Hello, my lovelies. How are you guys doing today? Today we're going to be talking about another crime story. So, grab some popcorn and a drink, sit back, relax, and tune in, baby. So the case we're talking about today is just freaking awful. I mean, aren't they all? But, dude, let me just tell ya. Cassie Jo Stoddart, man. Have you heard of her? Cassie was born on December 21st, 1989. So she was young, guys. She was young. She had a younger brother and an older sister, I believe. So, 2 siblings. And they lived in Pocatello, Idaho. I think that's how you say it. I should have looked it up. My air conditioner just kicked on, so if you hear it, ignore it. But anyways, Cassie, and her brother lived with their grandparents. I'm pretty sure her sister was like grown and moved out or something. I don't know why they lived with the grandparents and not like their parents, but anyways, there's that little fact for you that don't matter. Cassie is 16 when the story takes place. It's in 2006. She's a junior in high school. Cassie's boyfriend, his name is Matt. They went to school together. I'm pretty sure that he is 16 as well. So, you know, they like to hang out. You know how you are when you're 16, 15, in that little mid to late teen area when you're just feeling so flirty and so carefree. So at the point of this story taking place, Cassie and her boyfriend Matt will have been together for around like 5 months at this point. So Cassie wanted to buy a car. You know, she's 16. Who doesn't want a car at 16? Cassie wants a car, so she'll babysit and do stuff like that for extra money, like work a lot during the summer and stuff to save up money for a car. So Cassie's Uncle Frank and Aunt Allison would ask her to house sit their house while they like went out of town for a few days. And they would pay her. And I think they had animals. Yeah, they did. They had a dog or more than one dog, something like that. But anyways, Cassie was like, heck yeah, you know, it's a money opportunity and she wants a car and she wants to show that she's responsible and can handle her ish. So Cassie's mom was with her, and they were actually close even though she lived with her grandma. She took her to the house, her aunt and uncle's house, to house sit. This was like the week of September 20th. And the house was on a lane or something, a drive called Whispering Cliffs. That already makes me think of frickin' ghosts and shit. The house was a pretty big house. If I can find a picture, I'll put it in here somewhere. But yeah, I'm freaking scared of the dark. I ain't even lying. I may watch murder mysteries and like scary movies all the time, but I'm scared shitless of the dark. I am a big wiener. So they had 3 cats and 2 dogs is what it was. So yeah, I was kind of close. But anyways, Cassie would ask her aunt if it was okay if her boyfriend like came and stayed like during the day and hung out with her at the house while she sitted, whatever you call it. And her aunt said, yeah, that was cool. And keep in mind, Cassie wasn't like a drinker, a drug doer, a partier, or anything like that. She was like really level-headed, like, and was really mature for her age. So her aunt really didn't have any doubts or worries about it. So she was just like, yeah, go for it. I mean, but even though Cassie was a good kid, didn't mean her boyfriend was good. You know how good kids be attracted to them bad boys? So Cassie and Matt are hanging out together. It's Friday night. They are both at her aunt and uncle's house. They're about to sit down and watch a movie, but Matt's kind of like, oh man, I want to invite my boys over, you know? So he invites his guy friends, Brian and Torey, over to hang out with him and Cassie at Cassie's aunt and uncle's house. So they all decided to just have a movie night together. They were all kind of friends. They all went to the same high school together and all that jazz, so they all knew each other pretty decently. You know, it's gonna be a decent night. Even though Cassie was kind of like, I just want to hang out with my boyfriend, but, you know. Plus, like, Cassie is trying to show that she's, like, mature and stuff, and she only asked her aunt if her boyfriend could come over, and, she didn't really want him finding out that the other 2 guys were there. It'd be like she lied or something, you don't want to, like, betray somebody when you're trying to gain their trust and show that you're mature. So they're all getting ready to watch a movie, and then Brian and Torey are like, oh my god, this is lame. I thought there was going to be a party here. Like, I thought there was going to be a party. Where's the party at, man? This is boring. They were like, no, we'd rather go watch a movie at the actual movie theater if we're going to watch a movie. Something new and as bigger and louder. So the boys left, Brian and Torey. And Cassie was happy. She's spending time with her boyfriend alone now, like she wanted, you know. Movie time. So about like 15 minutes after Brian and Torey left, though, the power just went out. I would already be being like, okay, boys, okay. Who's trying to prank me? What's going on? I damn sure ain't gonna go check it out. Cassie's like, hell no. She's kind of scared, like freaking out, which I probably would also be kind of scared. Like, okay, it's probably just them pranking us, but at the same time, like, what if it's not? So yeah, she's like, I'm not going anywhere, and Matt stayed with her as well. And they just kind of sit it out in the living room to see if anything would change. They never, like, went to flip the breaker or anything like that, but after about a few minutes or something like that, like, half the power came back on. Not all of it, just, like, half. So at around this time, Matt calls his mom and asks if he can stay the night with Cassie because of what's going on. She's, like, upset and scared, and he don't want to leave her. Well, the mom's like, you're 16. Hell no, you're not going to stay the night with a girl. So, I'm coming to get you, boy. So on top of all this light stuff that's already creepy, and the house being big is creepy too, like 2-story, 3-story house, whatever it was, the basement stairs were like in the kitchen area, and one of the dogs kept going to the top of the basement stairs and looking like at the door or down them or whatever. I don't know, I can't remember if there was a door on it or it was just open or what, but either way, the dog kept staring at it and barking. Then it would like come back in the living room, and then it would go back and bark some more and come back, and it just kept doing that. I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a lot of things that scare me, but when dogs start acting weird, that's when my ass is glass. I am gone, dude. I am speeding out there like the fastest bullet there is. I am zoom. I'm out. Shooting star, baby. Sorry you guys are having to deal with my double chin a lot. Like, one day I'm going to set everything up and do this right. I promise. But anyways, Matt's mom gets to the house at around 11 p.m. and picks Matt up. He asks one more time, hey mom, can I please stay? She still says hell no. But she does offer for Cassie to come stay at their house, which he asked Cassie if she wants to come stay at their house, and Cassie's like, no, I told them I was going to house sit my aunt and uncle, and I have a responsibility. I'm not leaving. I need to be here. So Matt leaves, and Cassie goes back into the house. I guess she's just going to kind of chill and watch movies, you know, house sit like she said she would. Well, the house lights were still like half on, I guess. Well, they started flickering, and then they all went off again. So, of course, this was freaking her out. Like, now she's alone, dude. So she wasn't about to go investigate by herself for sure. So she still stayed in the living room. So 2 days later, the aunt, uncle, and her cousin, Cassie's, come home from their trip. Cassie's 13-year-old cousin would go into the home first. The door was unlocked, which she said was already, like obviously weird and offsetting, or whatever you call it. But anyways, the 13-year-old cousin walks in the house first. So, the 13-year-old cousin walks into the house, walks into the living room, and that is where she sees her cousin Cassie stabbed to death. Oh, guys, like, at my age, I am 28, and walking into something like that, especially when it's a family member, somebody I know, whatever, I just can't even imagine. But then to also be 13, like, oh my gosh, man. Cassie was laying in a pool of blood on the floor in the living room, and when her cousin seen this, she screamed. And when she screamed, of course, you know, her mom and dad, Cassie's aunt and uncle, ran in there immediately, and they seen what she was looking at and screaming about. And they all just were just like, oh my, like they couldn't even believe it. So of course they called the police, and the police came out and investigated the home. They took the family, the aunt, uncle, and cousin of Cassie's out of the home and put them up in a hotel for like 2 weeks while they did, you know, more investigating, plus like get them out of there, like, until we know what's going on, you know. The investigators determined that Cassie had been there for a few days, like already dead for a few days, that this did not just happen. And they also said that it wasn't like a robbery or anything like that. They didn't think, obviously, because nothing from the house was taken or from Cassie or anything like that. There was also no signs of forced entry, so they believe that whoever like came in and did this to Cassie probably like knew Cassie, and she might have like let them in or something. The autopsy would reveal that Cassie had been stabbed around 30 freaking times, you guys. Like, really? They said with 9 to 12 of those stabbings being fatal. And if you watch like true crime and stuff a lot, you know that usually when like murders like this happen that are like really brutal or a ton of stabbings, that it's usually like somebody that knows them, because it's like a murder like with emotion behind it. You know what I mean? Like if you know, you know, you know. So yeah. So investigators would go talk to Matt, because that was her boyfriend, and you know, he was the last one that was around her, you know, as of what they know. So when Matt, Cassie's boyfriend, found out about like what happened, he was a little bit suspicious. He didn't show any like emotion, didn't cry, didn't act like shocked. But you guys know that honestly I hate looking at anything like that, because people show like emotion towards like major things like this differently. Like, you know, some people just really shut down and don't cry or show any emotion. Some people get mad. Some people get sad. Some people even laugh because of nervousness and just being like so freaked out, you know, like, so I hate when people look at this, but it really can also help. Sometimes people are just really suspicious because they need to be. So of course investigators ask Matt like what happened that night, like walk us through everything to see if like maybe they can get any hints or clues as to what the hell happened. Matt would say though that Brian and Torey did come over and hang out with them for a little bit. Matt told investigators that boys left early to go watch a movie at the movie theater. And Matt even said that when he left the house at 11 to go home with his mom, that he called Torey, and they were even like whispering and stuff, trying to be quiet because they were in a movie. I guess he was like trying to see where they were so that they could like go hang out since he was leaving his girlfriend's house or something. That's what he said. So Matt would say that the next day him and Torey hung out at his house, Matt's house. And Matt would say that he tried to call Cassie the whole weekend and she wouldn't answer. He could not get a hold of her. In my mind, I'm like, why the wouldn't you go check on her? My opinion's at the end, though. My opinion's at the end. Like, why wouldn't you go check on her? Especially because you knew she was scared and what creepy stuff was going on around the house, man. Like, but I'll just settle down. I'll just settle down. Stupid boys. Stupid boys. So naturally, investigators were like, we're going to have to go talk to Brian and Torey, you know, because they were involved in being the last people to see her. They found out that Brian and Torey loved to make, like, movies and stuff. They were movie gurus, or whatever you call that, them. Really into movies, really into filming. They did a lot of vlogs and stuff, and we're just all into that kind of thing. And they were, like, really into anything that was, like, horror related, like, you know, scary movies, stuff like that. So it was said that Brian was like kind of outgoing, and he had a crush on Cassie. But obviously she wasn't interested, she was with Matt. They still remain friends and stuff though, like, I guess, obviously, or maybe not obviously now that, So Brian was kind of an outcast. He said that he didn't really have many friends. He definitely wasn't like popular or anything like that. And he had a strange obsession with the Columbine shooting. I think that's what it's called. Or shootings. I'll have to look into that more. I forgot about that one. I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like, I have a really bad memory, so I'll have to go back and research that to remember exactly what that one was all about. Apparently, Brian had like a strange obsession with the shooter or whatever. Or shooters. Anyways, he said he liked them or idolized them because they like represented the outcast or whatever, like I guess getting back at society or something. And Brian would like say he wanted to do something similar to that. Red flags, man. Brian considered Torey one of his like really good friends, like I guess best friend or whatever. So of course investigators questioned both Brian and Torey. Brian and Torey would admit to being at the house with Cassie and Matt. They said that they thought it was going to be a party though, and they just wanted to watch a movie, and that was boring, so they wanted to leave and watch a movie. But at the theater. So both of the boys had movie ticket stubs showing that they went to the theater that night and watched the movie Holes. So they don't really have any leads, the investigators don't, so they kind of like all bring Matt, Brian, and Torey all back in for questioning because like, they don't know, they don't know. So they put Matt on a polygraph test, they asked some questions about like Cassie, like did you have anything to do with her murder, yada yada yada, all that stuff. Matt would say no, of course, and apparently he passed the polygraph with flying colors. So investigators went back to Brian and questioned him some more and asked, like, what did you do that night? Brian was like, we went to the movies. Told you. But investigators were like, okay, what movie did you see? Like, who was in it? What was it about? Like, all that stuff. Brian couldn't answer any of these questions. Like, you went to watch a movie and you know nothing whatsoever about it? Brian even would be like, it was like some scary movie. I can't remember the name right now. Like, but you had ticket stubs to Holes. I'm so confused right now. Suspicious boy. Investigators were also like, so, Brian and Torey are these movie gurus, movie critics or whatever, but they paid no attention whatsoever to a movie they went and watched. Come on now. So, investigators went to the movie theater they claimed to have went to, and they ran into a girl that was working the ticket booth. They were like, hey, do you know Brian and Torey? She was like, hell yeah, I go to school with them. Like, what of it? What of it, man? What of it? They were like, okay, were you working the ticket booth Friday night? Yeah. Did they come here? Did they get a ticket and go in and see a movie? Nah. No, man, I would have remembered them, and they definitely did not come in and see a movie. Investigators are like, mother. So, like, 5 days after, I think, the murder, it looks like I have a beard. Anyways, like, 5 days after the murder, Brian comes back in to be questioned again, and he's acting quite odd. As soon as Brian sits down, he starts crying. Guys, and if you're an investigator and somebody you think is guilty of something starts crying, that's a pretty sure shit sign that they're probably gonna tell you something that you're wanting to know. So he would say that, like, while they were at Cassie's house watching a movie, Brian went to the bathroom at one point, but instead of going to the bathroom, he went down and, like, unlocked the back door. He would tell investigators that him and Torey just wanted to scare Matt and Cassie. So when Brian and Torey said they were leaving to go watch a movie, They instead went behind the house, like in the backyard of the house where Cassie and Matt were, and they put like these creep clown masks on, these black clothes on, and they had like these knives and stuff. They claim that they did that to make the prank more realistic. Then they went through like the door that Brian had unlocked earlier, which I guess was the unlocked like basement door or something, not back door. But anyways, they went through there and they were led into they went into the basement, and that's where they were kind of hiding out, I guess, to scare, quote unquote, scare Cassie and Matt. They said that they were messing with like the breaker box, turning the lights like on and off and stuff, trying to scare them, kind of like the movie Scream, like just to make it more realistic. They said by doing this, they thought like Matt and Cassie would run around trying to like investigate what the frick was going on, and then they would just pop out and scare them with their real knives and shit. Well, after Matt left like with his mom that night and Cassie stayed there, the boys were still there, and that's when they were like, okay, well, we'll just continue to mess with Cassie. They said they thought for sure this time she was going to come down in the basement and check the breaker box and all that stuff, and then they would scare her. But she didn't. She stayed in the living room like she had the times before. Like, she wasn't coming down there with somebody there to help protect her. Why is she going to come down there by herself? So Brian says that Torey started to get like way too excited about wanting to kill Cassie, and kept saying like, we've got to kill her, or I've got to kill her, or something like that, and just kept on, and it was like, it was not fun. So Brian said that him and Torey went upstairs, and he said that Torey was actually the one that attacked Cassie, and he was the one stabbing her. He said that Torey kept just stabbing her over and over again, and that Brian, never even touched Cassie. Brian said that he was just there, and he didn't know that Torey was going to go this far. He thought that they were literally just going to scare her, and it was just all a joke. But Brian would later admit that he did stab Cassie 3 times, and he said he only did it because Torey was so like scary to him, like scaring him, and he thought that if he didn't do it, that Torey would do something to him. And like Torey was telling him to do it, and he was just afraid of Torey. Torey. Brian said that once Cassie was dead, they took all the evidence and put it in a bag and took it to a wooded area and buried it. So Brian takes investigators to where the bag is, and there was just all a bunch of stuff in it. Like, so many knives, the mask, like, all sorts of stuff. But get this, man. In that bag that they went and buried in the woods, there was also a videotape. Yeah. Stupid boys. So investigators decided to watch the videotape, of course, and Brian and Torey videotaped the whole process of the yeah. So I mean, like, they're recording their whole day like a little murder vlog or some shit. They're like discussing and writing down how they're gonna do it and who they're gonna do it to, and saying that they picked Cassie, and saying like sorry to her family that she had to be the one or some shit like that. Like, what the frick, dude? And like on the tapes, the boys are driving around talking about how excited they are to kill someone and crap. Like, what the hell are you boys doing? Like, go study your history test and shit. Like, what the frick, man? Go fishing. Like, what are you doing? Don't be like this, please. Don't. You're gonna get caught, and you're gonna go to prison. Don't do it. So, like, in the car scene and stuff, Brian is, like, the main one in the frame. I guess, like, Torey is recording him. And Brian is the main one talking about killing. Like, Torey really isn't saying much. Brian says that, he's horny just thinking about it. Freaking disgusting. Apparently, like, this video footage is, like, on the internet still, and you can watch it. I don't know where. I've heard it was on YouTube. I'm not sure. Haven't watched this actual video. I kind of wanted to, but then I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I will or not. It's hard to say. They filmed, like, leading up to the murder and after the murder and stuff like that. They didn't, like, film the murder itself, but obviously it was very clear that they freaking were pretty guilty of doing this shit. Brian and Torey would even talk about, like, on the tapes and stuff, how they wanted to go down in history, like some other, like, killers and stuff, like Ted Bundy and someone else. Kids, these are not the role models you should have. They even talked about how they needed to kill more people and earn their spotlight, like, alongside the other serial killers that are popular. Well, not popular, but you know what I mean. Like, well-known. So, like, obviously they were gonna do more of this. They seen that the boys were planning to kill Cassie. It was not a joke, that they were not just there to scare her and play pranks. Of course, when Torey was investigated, he said pretty much like the same thing Brian did. Like, I just went along for the ride, like, it was all a joke, like, I didn't plan on killing anyone, blah 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 blah. You could tell based on the videotapes that they were both equally responsible for this shit. And, you know, they just kept blaming each other and crap. They don't know exactly who was guilty of stabbing Cassie, but more than it was probably both of them. Like, September 27th, 2006. Both of these little kids were arrested. Thank God. There was also video evidence of both these boys, Brian and Torey, going to a pawn shop to purchase knives. And one of those knives that they purchased at the pawn shop was used to kill Cassie. So in trial, they of course both pointed the finger at each other, and their excuse for the videotape was that it was all just acting. Brian confessed to stabbing Cassie, but Torey never did. In Torey's trial, they went based on, like, the evidence that was found, and that was that Cassie's DNA was found on one knife, one shirt, and one glove. And the items that Cassie's DNA were found on were all worn by Brian. They also said that 4 male DNAs were found, like, on Cassie's right hand under her fingernails, and 2 male DNA evidence was found on her left hand. So according to this, Brian's DNA was found on both of Cassie's hands, but Torey's, on the other hand, was not found on anywhere on her. And I guess Torey really didn't say much about what he did or anything. You can hear Brian yelling, "I killed Cassie! I killed Cassie!" Of course, Torey's team would use this as a defense, saying that Torey had nothing to do with this. It was all Brian, because it was only Brian saying that he killed Cassie, and it wasn't like, yeah, I killed Cassie too, or we killed Cassie, la 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 la. But Brian and Torey both got life in prison for first-degree murder. Bye-bye, itch bays. But of course, shortly after, both teams tried to, like, appeal their convictions or whatever it's called. Brian would argue that there are several violations in the case and trial or whatever. Brian said that before he was, like, interviewed or interrogated, whatever you want to say, that his parents were not present. So all the stuff that he said shouldn't be able to be used. I think my filter's glitching out. Sorry, I like using filters. So what? No different than makeup. But, honey, the court found out that everything that was done in the interview was done correct. Brian was read his Miranda rights. He signed papers stating that he understood everything. So, yeah, bye, bitch. In, like, the middle of the interview with Brian, he did stop, like, in the middle of it and ask for his parents, which, at that point, it did stop. Like, they didn't continue. And the court agreed that Brian knowingly and willingly signed that waiver thing, that paper saying he understood everything, that everything was okay, or whatever, you know. Hey, Brian, What? Appeal denied, bitch. Torey's appeal was like focused on the fact that he never admitted to hurting or stabbing Cassie or anything like that. And they also focused on the videotape saying that you never hear him admitting of killing Cassie or saying that he killed anyone or did anything wrong. Torey would say that, like, he never said anything on the videotape proving that he was in the house or around it. He did pretend to be high on the videotape or whatever, but he wasn't guilty of any of this shit. He would say that his, like, rights were violated due to the council, though, not moving to suppress evidence from allegedly deficient warrant or some shit like that. I don't even know what the frick. Warrant that the parents were served or did serve or whatever, saying that they could go to Torey's house and, like, look through his stuff. He said, like, the warrant itself did not have, like, any specific authority to seize any electronics or computers or anything like that from his home. Which ended up happening. They ended up taking electronics and computers and stuff like that. But get this. When investigators frickin' searched Torey's computer, you wanna know what the frick they found? They found on Torey's computer animal cruelty and child pornography. This bleep and bleep. Pretty much saying that any evidence they got from his computers or electronics shouldn't be able to be used because the warrant didn't state that they could take those items and look through them. However, the court disagreed. Hey, Torey. What? Appeal denied too, bitch. The family was freaking heartbroken over the loss of Cassie, and they knew Brian and Torey had something to do with it. It was freaking heartbreaking, dude. It's sad as frick. So, like, the family was really frustrated at the fact that they were trying to get, like, appeals and get out of, like, freaking taking responsibility for what the shit they did. The family was upset. Like, I would be too. Like, take responsibility at least, you two punks. So, Cassie's aunt, uncle, and cousin, her 13-year-old cousin that found her on the floor dead, they would all suffer greatly, like most people would. They all were very depressed and went through a lot. Cassie's 13-year-old cousin would fall into deep depression and even try committing suicide. Cassie's aunt, you know, like the woman she was house sitting for, she went into a deep depression as well and lost her job and everything. Like, I couldn't imagine how she felt, like letting, you know, having her her niece go and house sit, and then this happening to her in her house. Like, even though it was her niece's friends that were invited over by her boyfriend, but still, like, that shit fucks with you. The aunt, uncle, and cousin, they wanted out of the house because of the history now, because obviously being there was super depressing, but they couldn't sell it because of what happened there. Like, it just sucked for them. So this family is already, like, tired of going through this crap. They can't sell their house. They put it up every year for sale and couldn't get out from under the damn thing and get out of there. And then in 2012, the damn case would be brought up again, and guess what for? The Supreme Court in Idaho ruled that mandatory life sentences are unconstitutional for juvenile defendants, even in cases of murder. I guess in 2013, some kind of, like, documentary came out. I'm not sure exactly what it was called, but Brian and Torey were interviewed in it, and it, like, talks about how anybody under 18 shouldn't spend life in prison and stuff like that, which, I mean, I kind of agree, but, I mean, theirs was ridiculous. They really premeditated this hardcore, and they were going to kill more people. They had a whole hit list, guys. Like, they were going to continue. They wanted to be famous serial killers. So, nah, not for them. I think they should rot. In the evidence of this case, there was a list of people that they were going to go after and kill after they had killed Cassie. So definitely premeditated, definitely planned to not be stopping anytime soon. Torey still to this day, or at least when the interview was done for that documentary, would say that he is not guilty, that he had nothing to do with this, or at least nothing to do with the murder. Brian would say that Torey was the one that was like super heavily influenced by the Scream movies and stuff like that, and claims that he wanted to create his own murder that was like similar to that movie or show or whatever, Scream. He says that Torey convinced Brian to do something related to Scream, so he just don't understand why Torey won't like own up to what he did or anything like that. I kind of think that Cassie's boyfriend Matt had something to do with this, and this is why. Now, some of y'all are probably going to say, no, he had nothing to do with it. Why would he have something to do with it? He, was going to stay there and protect her when all this stuff was going on. He left to his mom's house. If he had something to do with it, he would have, went back there with them or something. Y'all are going to say a lot of stuff. But this is the reason why I think that he might have a little bit to do with it, if not a lot. I just found it really suspicious, for one, that when all this light stuff was going on, that he didn't go investigate it all. Because, okay, maybe that's not, a really good sign that he was, in on it. But it just kind of gives me iffy vibes because, when you're with your girlfriend and you're young like that and you're trying to impress your girlfriend, you'd be like, let me go check things out, baby. Let me make sure this house is okay with you. And he was going to stay there with her all night, apparently. So why not go investigate and make sure she's okay? Maybe he knew his friends were doing this stuff and he knew everything was okay. That's why he didn't want to go investigate, because he was letting them do their thing. Then, some of y'all might be like, well, he asked, to stay with Cassie. He may be, or may have done that in front of her just to kind of, throw her off a little bit and throw things off a little bit, because maybe he knew his mom would say no. And then when his mom got there and was like, well, she can come over and, stay the night at our house, he could have lied. Maybe he didn't really go ask Cassie, if she wanted to come stay the night, or something like that. You know what I mean? That could have been all set up too. Or, not gone the way he says. Another reason I think that Matt might be in on this is the fact that how is it that literally that day, or the day before, they were making a video and saying in the video that, hey, Cassie, we're planning to kill you, sorry to your parents, you're the chosen one, or whatever the hell. And then Matt just happens to be the one who invites them over to where him and Cassie are, and then leaves. I have to leave, my mom said I can't stay. And then his friends kill her. Come on, I think he helped set it up. Not to mention, here's another reason I think that he may be in on it. He literally admits that he called Torey to hang out with him right after he left Cassie's house, and said that he heard the movie and they were even trying to be quiet because the movie was loud and they were in the theater. Well, we know that they never went to the movies, so either one, he really thought they were at the movies and they were pretending and playing it really, really well, acting very good, or he was lying and covering up for them and saying that, yeah, I called them, they were at the movies, because he was in on it. And then the next day after the murder, I'm pretty sure it was, Matt goes and literally hangs out with Torey at his house. I feel like it would be really weird that they didn't talk about it or know anything. That Matt didn't talk about it or know anything, or Torey didn't talk about it to him or say, dude, I messed. It's just weird that they hung out the day after this shit. Then, of course, even though I do not like to judge the way people react to deaths and murder and extreme things, because everybody acts differently based on, many things, it was kind of weird adding up all the things that I'm saying right now for the reason, that I think Matt's guilty. It's just kind of weird that he also didn't show any emotion when he heard that she was dead and was just, suspicious, But that is just some of my opinions. And sorry, my filter keeps glitching out. Look. Listen. it's no worse than makeup, okay? I like doing these filters mainly just because they kind of make me look cutesy in the video, you know? And it adds a little fling and blang to it. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. They edit movies and shit like that all the time. Make people look better than they really look. Why can't I edit my movie? But guys, that is the story of poor Cassie and the people that murdered her. Like, usually I would like to focus more on the victim, but I mean, this was kind of the story to show you, like, what people can do, what people are capable of, and then what happened to them. But sweet Cassie, though, like they said, she was a sweet girl. She really worked hard. She was very loyal and reliable, and she just did not deserve to go like this. Well, she didn't deserve to die at all that young, but especially like this. I feel so horrible for her, and I really hope that she's resting in peace and that life on the other side is great for her and that her family heals from all this pain. With that being said, if you have a personal case or a case you just want me to cover, email me at Heathersimportantmail@gmail.com. Yes, my name is actually Heather, but I go by KCat. And remember, this channel is new. I am getting better at things. Things will get better. Videos will get better. And just keep in mind that I created this channel because I do want to help. I want to make a difference. I want to help solve cases with you guys, my community, and help bring missing people home, etc., etc. So we're doing it for the right reasons, as well as just bringing awareness to what the hell can happen in the world by telling stories about these murderers and the evil shit they do. Love you guys. Bye.